Yo, what's going on, snipers, and welcome back to our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode here in NHL 25. So in last episode, if you did not catch it, we had another offseason, and we managed to maintain our roster pretty much for the most part, which is exciting, because I do think this team definitely still has a chance to win the Stanley Cup within these last few years, but obviously there is a chance that we might get a bit more regression throughout our lineup throughout the season, maybe some growth as well, because we do have some younger players, but we also have some older guys, so I'm expecting maybe some drop-off from guys like Kolars and then also Ristolainen. Obviously, Ristolainen is 38 years old and he'll be 39 before the season ends. Kolars is 36, so there is a chance we could lose both these guys to retirement at the end of the season. So I'm just expecting hopefully some good stuff from them. I don't think Kolars will retire at the end of the season, even though he is 36. I just think because he has an X factor still, I think he could still play for a few more years, so he might not even retire before the series ends. But lucky for us, like I said, we do have a little bit of a next generation part of our team with McLeod, guys like Dunham, guys like also Robertson. So we do still have a good young team for the maybe for the future years, even if we lose those big guys. Even Quinn Cogliano, who's going to be jumping in from the AHL, should be a decent addition to our rosters. So very excited to see what this team can simulate. Like, I definitely think the playoffs will be easy for us to make it back to, but obviously it really depends on how, I guess, the game wants to give us wins or not. And basically our depth options aren't the best, so we got to stay kind of healthy all year. That's one thing I'm a little bit worried about, is these depth options really aren't the best players on paper. So I honestly don't really know if we get into injury trouble, if we're going to be very good, and if Ristolainen drops off a lot, he could be in the third line by the end of the season. So hoping that pretty much just everybody could do their part, give us some goals, give us some good defensive play, and then maybe we could actually have a good run again this year in the postseason. But anyways, before we get into simulating another season here in Albuquerque, let's get in your guys' comments, see what you guys have to say about last episode, and then we will make sure that we're ready to go for the start of the season and see what this team's able to do this 2045-46 year, and see if the playoffs are actually a possibility. So the first comment is from Sound Taco, says this team looks solid, so another deep playoff run is very possible. And yeah, I think actually a playoff run that is a deep one would be kind of possible with this team. Obviously, I was a little bit worried in the offseason about maybe there's a little bit of a regression from this team, but I don't think we regress too hard. Also, Quinn Cogliano jumping into our lineup, I think absolutely helps a lot, because or else we would have had to play, say, maybe Kopitz in a spot. So we probably still would have had a good third line, but having Cogliano in the lineup is a very big plus. He only played 2 years in the AHL, but he's developed pretty nicely. He is a grinder, that's the only thing, so him and Robertson might take a bit too many penalty minutes. I'm hoping that our team can be a bit more disciplined, but we might be a bit aggressive because of that. Also, like I was mentioning, the defensive core, having Alvin Johnston jump into our team is quite nice, considering he was a low forward that we drafted in the second round. He actually looks pretty good defensively, so I'm excited just for a little bit of youth injection into this roster, and I'm hoping that obviously we do not have guys drop off too hard. Giant is another guy that could start dropping off soon. He is 32 years old, but I don't expect him maybe to drop off until for 3 more years if he doesn't retire before then. So hopefully Giant could have another good season, and maybe that could give us a chance to win the Stanley Cup this year. And the last and final comment is from Michael Dosu, who says, hard to believe there's only 3 or more seasons left. I think we could get one more Stanley Cup in those 3 years, though. And yeah, I think it's only 3 or 4 more seasons we have left of this. It is good that you think that we can win a Stanley Cup in those 3 to 4 years. I think we definitely can too, but obviously it's going to take some good cap management to do so. If we do lose Ristolainen to retirement at the end of the season, we have at least Cashman locked up as that next top line center that would replace Ristolainen. Then we also have Comrie, who I believe is a pending UFA. Yeah, he is. So I'm kind of hoping maybe this is the last year for Risto, just because that way I could hold on to Comrie a little bit longer. If I don't, it's not the end of the world, because we could do Cashman and Kopitz in the top 6. But obviously holding on to Comrie would make our center core just as strong as it was this season, basically. So hoping for another good year from this team. We have guys pretty much all in their right spots as well, which is nice. So there shouldn't be anybody complaining really about their ice time, to be honest. Maybe Kopitz, that's the only one I could think of. But he is getting power play time, if I'm not mistaken, so I'm hoping that he's okay. playing some fourth line ice time with that power play time. So if he starts to complain, we might have to make some adjustments. But at the same time, I don't know if there's any adjustments to make. Like, we could move Cogliano down to the fourth line if we want to, considering he's a third line checking forward, not a scoring forward. But I'm not too sure if he'll complain about his ice time if that's the case. So we'll see what this team is able to do. AHL-wise, we do have some prospects down there that could end up making it, like Isaac Dingle. He's probably only a few, maybe a season away from making it, maybe even less than a season. There's also Newberry's getting close. We have Krejcik, who's actually close as well. And then Stillman obviously was in our NHL team at one point. He could come back up to the NHL at some point in the playoffs if we do have a bit of problems with morale on that bottom six. And then from a defensive standpoint, we don't have any defensive prospects, really. Goalies, we do have Bachman, who is getting close. So the next generation of goaltenders might be here next season, which is quite exciting. So with that said, I think we're ready to get into this. So let's go up to simulate to the start of the preseason. And obviously we'll see what our coach thinks about our roster on paper and all that, which I think our team should be good enough to have a good playoff run again this year. So, all right, let's go through the preseason. Actually, didn't he say what he thought last episode? Didn't he think that we were going to make it to finals, or was that my other series? I can't even remember. Let's just take a look here. Coaching staff. Yeah, see, he says that he thinks that we can make the Stanley Cup final, and we put the preseason focus on conditioning just because we have a lot of older guys that might need a little bit more boost to their skating because their skating tends to drop off quite fast. So let's simulate through this preseason, see what we do, and then obviously the regular season, hopefully it's an okay season. We don't need to necessarily win the President's Trophy, but we need to have at least an okay season that gets us into the playoffs, and then anything can happen once we get there. So last year was a heartbreak. 2 years ago, we also had a little bit of a heartbreak, or 3 years ago. So I think this team is definitely due for another Stanley Cup. So I'm hoping that it happens this season just because of the fact that it could be the last year for Ristolainen. So 5-2-1 in the preseason is pretty solid. Let's take a look at some preseason stats and see who was doing good and who wasn't doing so well. So if we go over to stats, who was the best player for us in the preseason? It was Cashman. Oh, interesting. Maybe he should be top line center, but Ristolainen also had a really good preseason with 7 goals and 10 points, so he is not aging in the slightest. McLeod had a good preseason as a forward, as you'd expect. Kopitz had 7 points, 3 power play points, and then their 4 regular strength points as a fourth line guy. Kopitz could have a big year this year as well. I believe he's also, oh no, he's not a pending free agent, so he's probably going to be either like a top 9 center next season if Risto retires, or a top 6 center. Really depends if we lose Comrie as well. But that's good to see that the fourth line did stuff. Kopitz, Doughty, and then also the other guys. The defensive core actually did quite well for offensive stats, which is surprising. Interesting, okay. Johnston was a +6 in the preseason, and hopefully he's that good during the regular season because that would definitely show me that this guy is an NHL defenseman. And then what else we got here? From a goaltending perspective, what about the goalies? Gionta posted a .904. Mathers had a really rough preseason, and that's like even just calling it lightly. He allowed 10 goals in the span of 69 minutes, so just over a game. Not ideal for Mathers, but hopefully he has a good regular season as a backup, because obviously if a backup goaltender does good as a starter, then you have higher chances of winning games. Alright, with that said, let's get to the start of a new season, see if we can make it back to the playoffs. Hopefully, like I said, we stay healthy, because I do not really trust our depth too much, and I don't really want to call up guys from the AHL if we get into problems, so let's go 1 month at a time, see what we're doing. So after the first month of October, let's see how we do. We have a little bit of a road trip to start off the season, and we already suffer an injury. Hopefully that's not a sign of things to come, as Eugene Dunham has already been injured with an upper body injury. He's out to the 17th, so that's a pretty big loss here early on in the year. We'll just go replace player for the time being, but that's a pretty substantial loss early in the year. Alvin Johnson's now pulled his groin. Oh boy, maybe I should check and make sure the injuries aren't turned up like crazy. Let's go replace player on that too. Dunham is back. That's good. It wasn't super long term, at least, because if that was a long term injury, that would have been substantial probably. His Risto's dropped down to an 82 now. I'm kind of worried about Risto retiring, but at the same time, I think it would make sense if he did retire this year, just because with the amount of centers we have, we kind of need to open up a space eventually. But also, I want Risto to play here until he decides to actually call it quits. Now, despite the injuries, we are still winning a bunch of games here to start off the year. We have not lost so far, so the injuries have not played a factor whatsoever, as Johnston is back. So we'll get Johnston back into the defensive core. So we'll throw him in and Young will come out. It's nice that Young's getting an opportunity this year. Doesn't have much potential, so I thought it would be a good idea just to use him as a depth defenseman. Obviously, our top 6 pairing isn't as strong as it has been in prior years, but I think it is still a good enough defensive core that it should win games for the majority of the season. 6-0, damn, we're winning every single game in this first month, which is not necessarily what I expected, because I expected our team to do good, but not necessarily undefeated in the first month. Almost there you go. Now we lost a game, of course, after I said that. Lost 2 in a row, and give me 3 losses in a row. Yep. Can never trust the season sim when you start off the season really hot, all of a sudden you go on a losing streak. If you start off the season on a losing streak, then all of a sudden you go on a winning note. So despite us winning the first 6 games, we've lost now to the last 3 games in a row since being healthy. So a bit of an interesting first month of the season. Still a lot of season left to go, so let's just keep it the same. And hopefully we can get off this losing streak. Because if we continue this losing streak, then we might want to have to make some adjustments. So let's go another month and see what we can do here. We got a game against Vegas to start off November. 5-1 victory. Nice way to end off that losing streak. We also beat Detroit 6-5. Columbus 5-4. Looks like we're off to a good start offensively this season. As I said that, we lost 2-1 and 3-2 though, so maybe not. There's a loss to Vancouver and San Jose. Damn, our record's not looking as good as it was early in the year. There's a win though over Philadelphia. New Jersey was a win as well. Colorado, it's also a win. Okay. Yeah, we're a little bit inconsistent to start off the season as Briefers gets hurt. Then we'll just go replace player on that. But a little bit inconsistent, but at least it seems like when we go on a winning streak, we go on a long one. It's not like a short one. Because we are currently now, after that little bit of a losing streak, which lasted 4 games, we are all of a sudden on a 7-game win streak. So no problems really whatsoever right now, except for that consistency, I would say. So we're currently first place in the division, only 2 points back of the Islanders for first place in the entire league. So we might end up winning another President's Trophy this year if we continue on this pace. So I'm kind of hoping that we slow down a little bit, but not by too much that we obviously hurt our playoff chances. So let's go another month and see what we could do in December. See if it's a little bit more of a 500 month. Is it going to be well above 500, below 500? We beat the Ducks to start off the month, and then we lost to LA, so an 8-game win streak comes to an end. Risto was never injured, so we'll go continue on that. Game against Chicago is going to be another loss, so back-to-back losses now. Yeah, it seems like obviously our winning streaks are good, but then we go on a little bit of a stretch where we lose multiple games within a span, and then we go back on a winning streak. Like, it's definitely not the best recipe for winning games and being a good playoff team, but at the same time, it's better that you don't have a super, super good season, because or else then you're likely going to be like an early exit in the playoffs. So we got to be kind of one of those teams that simulate kind of average maybe, and then we have a higher chance, I feel like, rather than winning the President's Trophy and trying to go for a cup. We already have over 20 wins this season, so very, very solid here. Game against Utah is also a win. St. Louis is an OT loss. And Tampa to round off 2045 is going to be another win in overtime. So we're 24-10-2. Very solid start to the year. 50 points, which has us second place in the NHL. The New York Islanders are absolutely killing it. Actually, we're third place in the league. But the New York Islanders are absolutely cruising right now. They're 27-6-4 for 58 points. So we might get lucky that one of the other teams is going to end up winning the President's Trophy because of that. And maybe we're just going to be a team that finishes top 5 and have a higher chance to win the Stanley Cup because of that. Now, the Islanders could be a really good team, though, too. So we got to be a bit worried on that. I wonder if the Islanders win the Stanley Cup in this franchise mode, that I'll actually be able to win one in my series as well, because the Islanders in my series, from my Islanders franchise mode, I haven't been able to put it together. It just seems like we're always doomed for no success in the playoffs. So we do have a game coming up against them, speaking of which. It'll be interesting to see if our team can give them a loss or not. So let's go another month and see what we could do in January. Game against Boston to start off 2046 is a shootout win. Nice. Winnipeg is a 4-1 loss, and Ristolainen has injured his elbow. He's only out for a week, or just over a week maybe, but that does suck that Risto's getting injured, because that makes me feel like he's definitely close to retirement if he's actually getting hurt. So I will go replace player with that. A game against the Islanders, we beat them in regulation too. So we did just beat one of the best teams in the NHL, maybe the best. I'm not too sure if they got past at any point, but that's nice to see. Back-to-back shutouts as well. And another old guy goes down that could end up retiring before the series ends. Drew Bell has strained his hamstring. He's out to the 20th, so that's only for a week. Let's just go replace Per on that too. So there's a loss against Detroit. We do beat Columbus, and Risto is back, so that is good news. Hansen was playing top-line center. He is gaining some overall points back, so I guess he's happy with the ice time because he got to play on the top line. Risto has dropped down to an 81. Like I said, Risto could be a third-line guy by the end of the season. There is a chance that he might get moved down in the lineup depending on what he does this postseason and regular season, of course, too. But yeah, Cashman and Comrie at least could replace him. Like, he's technically our worst center on the team right now, which is kind of crazy because I remember when this guy was like one of our best players in terms of overall rating. Like, I think he was like a 92 at his peak. And now he's the worst center on the team basically based on that. But since he's playing on the top line, he's probably outproducing a lot of those higher-end guys, my guess. Game against Minnesota, win as well. Seattle is another win. Damn, we're winning so many games this season. I feel like this season we could end up somehow winning more than we need to. And then we're not going to have a good run again. But this team's had some really good regular season success, which is nice to see. But obviously the postseason success is what we want to see more of. So we'll get Bell back in. Oh, damn, I didn't even realize Bell has a Born Leader. That's interesting. I guess he generated that X Factor because I'm pretty sure he never had Born Leader. He could have, but I don't think I ever seen him with X Factors really like that. Maybe he's losing his X Factors then. Did he have ever zone ability? I don't remember. He has Truculence. I know he had Truculence before, but I don't remember if he ever had a gold ability or not. But the fact that he has Born Leader is kind of a nice one just because obviously he's been here a long time. It would make sense that he should be a good leader for this team. All right, a couple more games to wrap up this month is another win over Vancouver. We do lose to the Sharks, which is okay. Game against Philadelphia is another loss, and Dallas is a win. So we're 33-14-2 headed into February, which currently at the moment has us on 68 points. The next best team is the Islanders on 72 above us. Capitals are on 69, and that's it. So technically we're the third best team in the NHL right now, and two of the best teams in the NHL are in the Metropolitan Division. So, interesting. I wonder what's working well for us right now. I feel like it's a mix of our offense and defensive play, though, because we've had games where we've had back-to-back shutouts. We've had games where we've allowed 2 goals against. I feel like our defensive play has to be pretty solid, too, but maybe we're just more of an offensive-based team. Tough to say. Let's go through February now and see what we do in February. But I think playoffs are pretty much a lock at this point as long as we stay healthy. And, of course, there's another injury. This one is to George Delisle. He'll be out for, like, around 3 weeks, which is unfortunate. He gets some back spasms, probably getting a little bit older on this team. Let's just go replace player and take him out of the lineup with a random depth option. There's a shutout over New Jersey. Nice to see that. We do lose in a shootout to Colorado. Toronto is a 5-3 victory as Nashville has fired their head coach in Harrison Pritchett. Interesting. Buffalo is another win. Yeah, I really like the way that this team's playing this season, but I'm also worried about how the playoffs are going to simulate. Like, because I said if you have a really good regular season, the playoff success sometimes follows. You could sometimes win a cup and the President's Trophy in the same season, but the chances of that are very slim, it seems like. All right, Delisle's back, which is good because we were losing a little bit of games lately. Kolar's has dropped down to an 87, so there's a chance we could literally have multiple retirements this season, which kind of sucks, but is what it is. It will give a chance to other guys. Like McLeod could be a top-line left winger next season if Kolar's decides to retire at the end of the year. Game against Washington's a win. Ottawa in Calgary. Let's see what we got here. A loss and another loss. Damn, yeah, we're having a little bit of a rough month here, but that might be good for our chances this postseason. So DeAndre Hundwick's been injured with injured ribs out till March the 8th, so that's a pretty substantial blow on the defensive core, but we'll go replace a player on that. Florida is also a loss. Nashville is a 7-1 victory, so that's a nice way to end off a bad month. So we definitely lost a lot more that month, but we're now 39-20-4, and we have fallen back to where in the standings in terms of the entire league. We're on 82 points. Sharks are on 85. There's literally like 4 teams above us, so we're probably like still 5th in the league, but the Blues are trying to steal the division from us. It's actually good that we lost a lot of games that month because it gives me a higher chance of feeling like we actually could achieve something this year. So Let's go to a day past the deadline. I don't know if I'll look at actually AI trades because I feel like it's kind of pointless at this point in time. I feel like there's not a lot of players that have ours that used to play with us that would have gotten dealt. So we're just going to go right past deadline and not even look at the AI trades that happened. Okay, so deadline game against the Oilers. Let's see, 6-4 victory. Interesting. So there was one trade that popped up on the bottom, but nobody I know, so that doesn't really matter. All right, 6-4 win. Nice to see that. Nice to see that. All right. Let's continue to simulate through the rest of March. Actually, it's showing me all the trades on the bottom right now, which is kind of interesting. Maybe I could just stay on this and I could see all the trades. Does it actually go through all the deals that happened at the deadline? What if you just stay on the deadline for a little few minutes or what? Because if it's going to show me every single trade, that'd be interesting. It only showed me 2. It would have been nice if it showed me all of them. All right. Let's go to the end of March. And Eugene Dunham's been injured for the second time this season. Out with a sore foot. It's at least not super long term. Let's just go replace Burr again. But there has been a decent chunk of injuries this year, but we've been able to win games still without those players. So it's not like it's hurt us so much that we're out of the playoff race because of it. So I don't mind that. We've been dealing with some injuries, but hopefully we stay a little bit more healthy. Bell's dropped down to an 86 now. Damn. I feel like a lot of our old guys are starting to decline a little bit, which is not ideal. Obviously, that could play a factor in future seasons, but right now, at least the young core of the future, they aren't dropping at all, which is good. So, but the old guys on the team starting to dwindle a little bit. Game against St. Louis and Malkin, and we win that game in a shootout. Nice. All right, 4 games this week as Dunham is back from injury. Nice to see that. I think Dunham is maybe one of my favorites for the next captain of this team after guys like Kolar's retire and all that. If Kolar's does retire before the series ends, I think Dunham, guys like McLeod, Bell actually could be a captain of this team though as well. I feel like definitely there's guys that could be the captain in the future of this team. Like Dunham should probably be a captain. Like if this team went past 25 years, I think Dunham would be maybe the next in line after that. But anyways, I don't know what happened in that game against Tampa because it glitched out and I can't see the score. But we do beat Boston. We lose to Winnipeg in a shootout. We lose to the Islanders in an overtime. Robertson's now been injured with an injured groin. Let's go replace player on that. He's only out till the 25th, but we're lucky that these injuries have only been lasting for like a week at a time. So we got to be careful here. Just don't get too injured. Don't get too bruised up because we got to stay kind of healthy here in these last few weeks of the season. So Robertson's back. We'll get him in and Enroth will come back out. Looks like everybody's been okay with their ice time on the forward group, which is nice because Kopitz hasn't dropped off at all despite playing on the 4th line. So I'm pretty happy with the fact that nobody's complaining for the most part. All right, I don't know what happened in that Detroit game as Comrie's now out with an injury till April the 14th. So that will have him back maybe for the start of the playoffs. That's not a great injury at this point in the season. Columbus is a 4-0 shutout. Still don't know about those 2 games yet against Detroit and Tampa. Minnesota's a loss, Seattle's a loss. But yeah, basically Detroit was a shootout win. Tampa was a 5-3 victory. We are now 47-23-7, and we have a few more games left to go. Obviously, we've probably clinched a playoff spot at this point, I would assume. Let's see. Yes, we have. Okay, we're on 101 points. We're literally 9 points up on the second best team in the Central, so I feel like we're running away with the Central Division. We're up on the Sharks as well. We're only technically 7 points back at the Capitals. The Islanders have also fallen off a little bit, too, after their really good start. But we are one of the best teams in the league still at this point in time, which is kind of surprising, especially after we had one really bad month, I would say. Okay, let's go through these 3 games as we look to get healthy before the start of the playoffs. Vancouver has fired their head coach, Sean Kavanagh. Okay. And that was directly after the game we played against them, despite them beating us, which is kind of funny. We also lost to the Sharks. We lose to the Flyers. We're on a little bit of a downwards trajectory in this last few games of the season, which might be a good thing, but there's also a chance that this team's not going to be that good going into the playoffs too, but maybe that's okay. I don't really know. Final few games of the season, Colorado in Toronto, both road games. Let's see if we could get maybe a one or more win at least. Loss again against Colorado. Toronto is a 6-4 win to end the season, so a bit of a rough patch to end off the season, but we do still end up winning the division by 5 points. And we do still finish as one of the better teams in the league, probably like 6th, I think. Looks like the Caps won the President's Trophy. But 48, 26, and 8 is a pretty solid record. Definitely not a good stretch here, though. From this Minnesota game onward, we literally lost like 6 straight games, I think. And then there was another month in, I think it was February. Yeah, we had a rough month then, too. Most of our losses came in February near the end of the season, so hopefully this team isn't going to just start falling apart completely because of that. But let me just go to this for a second so we can basically open the stats and not see who led us in points. All right, let's take a look at anyways our team stats to start this off. So if we go to entire league here, we are the 5th best team in the entire NHL, only behind San Jose, Columbus, New York, and Washington. Just 4 points up on the Kraken. In terms of goals for per game, we were the 4th best offensive team. So not the top offensive team, but still a top 4 offense is really nice. I like to see that, especially with some of the guys getting older on this team. The Islanders were the 2nd best. Toronto is number 2, despite being 10th in the NHL. So Toronto might be a wild card kind of team in the playoffs. San Jose was the best offensive team again. Not a surprise. Goals against per game. Washington was the best defensive team. We were where? Damn, we fell off defensively. Yeah, we were not that good defensively this season. Maybe it was because of all those losses near the end of the regular season. I'm not too sure, but definitely one of our worst seasons defensively in quite some time. We were still probably one of the better teams in a sense, like halfway through the entire league, but hopefully the defense plays better in the postseason. Maybe that means Gianta's going to have a really good playoffs ahead of him. I'm not too sure. Power play percentage, we were the 2nd best team on the power play, so the power play helped out quite a bit with the offense, which is nice to see. And our penalty kill was 85%, which is also kind of mid. Yeah, So we're a good offensive team. Our defensive play should be better. And then in terms of shorthanded goals, 9 shorthanded goals, which is one of the most in the NHL. 25, 14, and 2 on home ice, 23, 12, and 6 on the road. And you can see going into the playoffs, 3, 5, and 2. I almost feel like our team's going to turn it around in the postseason because of that, but honestly, no idea. So a pretty bad end to the regular season, but still good enough to make the playoffs comfortably. Maybe we're going to be a good team in the playoffs, though. Maybe we are. All right, since we had a good offense, we should have a good score. Interesting. Okay, never mind. I was going to say since we were one of the best offensive teams, you'd think we'd have a guy well over point per game. Well, it looks like the NHL might be low scoring this season, or maybe just we had very good depth scoring, because Ristolainen only led us with 78 points, which is quite low for a team leader, because that's everybody on the team is below point per game then. So I'm kind of interested to take a look at the numbers across the entire league as well, because if 78 points led our team, it might be low scoring like last season, because last season I feel like there was only like 4 or 5 guys over 100 points if I remember right. So maybe the NHL is becoming more defensively minded. I'm not too sure. Let's take a look at some stats here. See what we got going. I'm going to close my eyes. You know, you guys can see the stats here, and we're going to go boom. There you go. So 78 points from Risto, 38 goals, 40 assists. He was point per game. Obviously, he missed 4 games, but good season from Risto at his age. He's still 38 years old. Exact bottom 6. Former first overall pick 21 years ago. The question is this his last playoff run ahead of him? And what has been a historic career for him. Really love this guy. Probably my 2nd favorite player in the series behind Stelbit's my guess. I'm not too sure exactly. I really like Risto's defensive work and all that, but good stuff from him. Comrie on 57 points in 75 games. Comrie had a big year, and he is a pending free agent, so that's probably why he hasn't returned yet from his injury. But yeah, Comrie's probably trying to get paid, which means hopefully Risto retires. If he doesn't, Comrie might be gone to free agency this offseason. Cashman on 56 points, 31 goals. I like the 31 goals. Kopitz on 50 points. 21 power play points for Kopitz. Wow. He literally was averaging 951 on ice. Power play and 4th line. And he was fantastic. Wow. And he didn't even lose any morale. And he still has one more season left here, which is fantastic. So maybe we could afford to actually lose Comrie then in that sense this offseason if Risto doesn't retire. Because we could still run Kopitz in the top 6 role almost. Kopitz, it looks like if he has a good top 6 ice time, he could produce. Because if he's going to produce with mostly power play time and stuff like that, he should do well. Cogliano on 30 points. That's not too bad for a rookie grinder. 66 penalty minutes, so didn't take as much penalties as he did in the AHL, but that's a good year for him. That's a good year. He does have good shot power, so I guess it makes sense why he could score some goals. 13 points in 19 games as a depth option for Jürgen Hansen. Interesting. Is he losing morale? Not really. Not right now, at least. He was a bit, but now he was in the lineup the last few games. Seems like he fits in really well when he's actually playing in like a top 6 role. Left wing side of things, Kolar's on 71 points. Pretty good year for Kolar's. Delisle on 39 points. A little bit lower than anticipated, but he was injured a bit too. Doughty on 29. That's not bad. Not bad at all. Right wing side of things, Dunham on 61 points. Minus 10. Damn. Some guys have some weird plus minuses on this team, but Dunham obviously missed 5 games due to injury. Robertson 56 points. Reefers on 29. Enroth on 3 and 16. Wasn't very good. From a defensive standpoint, McLeod on 56 points. He was minus 10 this season. Kind of weird, some of the plus minuses from the guys on the top line. Or the second line and the first line a little bit. Huh. Yeah, that's a bit of a regression from Ryder McLeod. I'm not too sure why exactly. But I'm expecting him to bring it a little bit this postseason. Especially after we paid him a lot of money. He needs to do better than that for sure. 53 points from Hunwick. He was really good. Bell on 44 points. He was great. Petterman 21 points. Carl Lottie 20 points. Hudden 16. Johnston had 11. And Young had 1 goal in 10 games. Was plus 4. Not bad. Goaltending wise, what do we got here? Gionta on a 901. The worst season probably of Gionta's career. Mathers had a 900. So Gionta might have a good playoffs ahead of him because he has not posted a number below a 910 save percentage since, basically way back in 2038. Which was the year we won the Stanley Cup, if I'm not mistaken, right? Let's see. Yeah, 2037-38 is when we won the Stanley Cup last. And that was the year that Gionta did not have a great regular season. He had a 902 save percentage that year. And then afterwards, he was really good during the regular season, but we did not win a single Stanley Cup during that span. 32-17-5. What was he like back in those days? 38-17-4. I wonder if that means he's going to have a good playoffs. Because how was he the year that we won the Stanley Cup in the postseason? 904. He wasn't insane, but maybe we need him to be more averaged and really good. It'll be interesting to see what he could do this playoffs for us. But yeah, the goaltending wasn't super great. And then in terms of stats around the league, I'm kind of curious on who led the league in points and all that. Like, was it a low-scoring season by any stretch? Yeah, it was. Damn, it was a low-scoring season. So the NHL is kind of reversed from offensive galore seasons when we had like Stowitz with 128 points, for instance. There was only 3 100-point players this season in 2046, so we're kind of back into more of a defensive franchise mode, I guess. 2 Sharks players up there in points, and then there was also Bjorkstrand in Seattle, did I say? Yeah, Interesting. Was not expecting it to be this low scoring, but it was. Islanders had a couple people up there too, Penguins. It was the best goal scorer this season. 51 from Bjorkstrand, only 150 goal scorer as well. So Ristolainen literally was actually pretty good then. He was one of the best goal scorers in the league on 38 goals. So, interesting. There must be some good goaltending results, you would assume. Best defenseman for points was Malachi Roberts in Toronto. 77 points, 115 penalty minutes, and 38 plus 38. Damn. Bissonnette only had 57 points this year. Yeah, the offense is so weird this season now. Because McLeod was still one of the best defensemen in the NHL on only 56 points. But Bissonnette, this guy's won a ton of Norris trophies. He's won 5 Norris trophies, 2 Lady Bings. But his numbers were not that insane this year. Like, when the offense was high in the league, he was posting 95 points at his peak. This year, he only had 57 points. So I am kind of confused on the goal scoring of the league, why it's like this. Like, even DeAndre Hunwick was a top 10 defenseman this year in the NHL, so interesting. Maybe this defensive style will kind of play into our hands a little bit because we are a good team with a good goaltender for the most part defensively. We weren't during the regular season this year, but the last few years we've been pretty damn solid at it. So, and then in terms of goaltending stats, let's see what we got here for goalies. Ranger led the league in wins in Columbus with 45. terms of shutouts, let's see, the most shutouts in the league was 5 as well. From Malkin, our former goaltender, of course, Sawchuk as well. And then Cogliano, Viggetti, Ranger, and Bermanis. A lot of goalies tied with 5. Best save percentage by a starter is going to be Lukowicz with a 924. And you also had Jokinen with a 923. Yeah, there were some goalies that had some really good numbers. Damn, Spezza's dropped off, it looks like, a bit too. Yeah, Spezza's a backup goaltender now in Carolina. Interesting. And then Sawchuk, who I obviously saw last year, won the Calder as a goalie and a Vezina in the same season, and the Jennings. He got a big-time deal out of that year. And, yeah, now he's had another good season in San Jose, it looks like. Best goals against average by a starter is Jokinen. Looks like it's going to be a Vezina for Matty Jokinen. I don't even remember this guy at all. Former third-round pick of the Canucks. Damn, he's getting a lot of money paid, too. He wasn't even that insane last year, but posting a 924 save percentage this year, pretty big. Best rookie this season. Let's see what we got here. The best rookie is Jay Prosser of the Boston Bruins on 62 points. G-Stop. Interesting. Yeah, this league is very strange. Cogliano was top 10 in points for a rookie this year, too. Yeah, I honestly don't even know why the NHL's turned to being low scoring again, but that's the way it is right now. Which, like I said, could end up playing into our hands a little bit because we have been a good defensive team in the past. So the question is now, who are we playing in the first round of the playoffs? And is Comrie going to be back for game 1? It looks like he might be. Yep, he will be. Good. So we will have Comrie back into the lineup, which is huge. Obviously, Hansen's been a good depth option, but obviously he's not a full-time player on this roster. He might get back in at some point if somebody complains, but Comrie is back for the playoffs. Good. So we're back to full health for the start of the postseason, which is great to see as well. And it looked like Kolar's lost more out of his X factors, which is not great, just in case you guys didn't see that. But anyways, in the first round, we're going to be taking on the Anaheim Ducks. They went 45-32-5 this season. They were 7-3 in their last 10 games going into the playoffs. All right. Interesting. I don't know if we've ever faced the Ducks in the playoffs. I don't feel like I have, which is kind of interesting. So Ducks versus Aliens. I got to definitely look for an AI generated image of Ducks flying in the air and they're going up against alien starships or something like that. Oh, man. Let's take a look at some stats here. Or actually, yeah, what is the comparison first and foremost? So they were 15th in goals for, so they're not a good offensive team, but they were 5th in goals against. So they're kind of reversed roles of us. They're a bad offensive team, but a good defensive team. Very good defensive team for that matter, because their penalty kill is also 5th in the NHL. But their power play was 23rd. They weren't scoring enough 5-on-5. We were very good in both power play and goals for. So it's basically about which team can play to their strength. Can we continue our goal scoring? Can we find our defensive play? Can the Ducks maintain their defensive play and start scoring goals as well? Like, honestly, that's probably the main outcome of that series. So let's take a look at, first and foremost, their lines, I guess. Then we'll take a look at how their players did during the season. But I honestly don't think we've ever played the Ducks. If we have, it was a while back. So first line, Ethan Pruss. They also have, what's your name? Cooper Altschuler and Caden Slater. Why do I remember Caden Slater from somewhere? Edmonton. I feel like we played against this guy before. Maybe when he was with Utah. Maybe not. I'm not too sure even. I do recognize this guy. Maybe when he was with Edmonton way back in the day. Honestly don't know. But kind of an interesting top line. Second line has Johan Eriksson. It also has Dalton Winchester and, what's your name? Clifford Montoya. I could definitely see why they're not a good offensive team so far, just based on the fact that they don't really have that stud of a player. Third line, no, they have Jason Berahowski. What's your name? Ruslan Vorobiev and Lionel Reinprecht. A fourth line, also Victor McLean, Jackson Howard. I feel like I've seen Jackson Howard somewhere too. And Jamie James. What a name. I didn't even realize this guy. I don't even know if it's pronounced James. It might be Yamas or something instead, but that's not the greatest forward group. If they have an injury, I wouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, they didn't score a lot during the regular season, so this might be the team. Now, I do remember Prost as well, actually. Yeah, I think I remember Prost being really good in his prime. He's got 87 points this year, but yeah, this guy is way past his prime at this point in time. Could end up retiring this season, so interesting. From a defensive standpoint, they have Billy Peltier. I feel like I remember Billy from somewhere too. Also on the Ducks. Maybe we did play the Ducks way back, but it was when they still had like guys like Zegras and McTavish and all that. I feel like it's definitely been a long time because I do recognize guys like Billy Peltier, unless he was up there in points and stuff. They also have Brendan McLaren. Second pairing has Lane Palmenville and what's your name? Lane Karkner. Jeez. And then a top 6 pairing of Rodrigo Bootland and Joshua Mangone. This is a really weird team. How is this team a good defensive team during the season is what I would like to know. They might have an injury on defense. That would make more sense than an injury on offense, but damn. And in a goaltending perspective, they do have 91 Lukovic, who is the best player on their team, and Cavallo, who's an 86. So maybe they just get strong goaltending, and that's what makes them a good defensive team. So scoring goals on these two goalies is going to be tough, but I think we could do it. Lukovic in the past, how good has he been in the playoffs? He's had back-to-back .924 save percentage regular seasons, which is insane. Playoffs .932 last year. The year before that, or 2 years before that, an .877, and then back in 2041, he had a .925. He seems like he's an okay playoff goaltender at times. It's kind of scary. And then Cavallo. I feel like I've seen Cavallo somewhere too. Maybe it was on Anaheim as well. I'm not too sure. He's only played 3 years. He's not been super good during the regular season or playoffs. And then in terms of their depth options, they do have an injury. I expected them to have an injury. They have though Lincoln Dorsett, and they also do have Dorian Pellick. Their injury is to Matthias Hjalmarsson, who is a right winger. All right, so they do have one offensive injury, not a defensive injury. So once Hjalmarsson is back, likely McLean comes out of the lineup, and in that right wing side looks definitely a bit stronger, with Slater moved down to the second, Eriksson down to the third. But they're still a little bit of a weaker offensive team. Their defense is definitely not that strong, but their goaltending makes up for it. So I honestly don't know what to expect. We might get cheesed, or we might find our defensive game and play really good and be able to easily beat them. Because if we continue our offense from the regular season and they don't continue their defensive play, I think we definitely have a chance to beat them for sure. Let's take a look at our stats from the regular season as well, their player stats, just so we can see a little bit more of who did what for them this season. I don't know when that guy's supposed to return. We'll definitely take a look at that as well. So Anaheim, let's see. So Prost had 87 points. Slater had 79. That's kind of surprising. Altschuler on 76. Eriksson on 58. Where is that guy that is injured at the moment? Oh, he's all the way down here. He was a trade acquisition? Or did he just miss the last 60 games? He just missed the last 60 games. He must have got injured very early in the season. So he could be back really soon. Because 19 points in 22 games. Yeah, he must have got injured very early on. There's just no way why he would be not on any other teams. He won the Calder year, the year we won the Stanley Cup. I didn't even realize that. And they won the Stanley Cup in 2038-39, or he did at least. He was on the Ducks then. So the Ducks actually won the Cup the year after we won the Cup. Huh. Did not remember that. I got to take a look at that Hjalmarsson guy's injury, though. Because if he's missed the last 60 games, he really should be back for game 1. Unless he has like some severe injury that I've never seen before. Because that's a very long injury to have. Let's see. Anaheim. A lacerated arm. Damn, he lacerated his arm. So he missed majority of the season with a lacerated arm. He will be back on the 24th. Which means we will have to face off against a guy that lacerated his arm and missed majority of the season. And that will be... He'll be back literally for probably... Yeah, I would say probably like Game 5, Game 6. Because I feel like they'll put him in before Game 7 if there's a Game 7. So that's kind of scary because he was really good when he was in the lineup. So maybe they would have been a better offensive team this season if he was in the lineup too. So we got to be a little bit aware about that once he does return. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of our Albuquerque Aliens Draft to Glory franchise mode. So in next episode, we will take it to the first round of the playoffs against the Anaheim Ducks as we look to continue our strengths, which is scoring goals and also improving on our defensive play in the postseason. Because if we could do that, we could definitely beat this Ducks team. Because to me, they look like a cheese team, but we don't want to really be afraid of a cheese team like this. Say anything down below. and I'll see you guys next time.